What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Kolas Projection Show presented by HOKA. I'm Nia Gibson, and join with me today is John Davern. Welcome back. Usually, John, you are on the other side talking rankings. We're talking a little bit different stuff with cross country today.
We got the fun stuff after a really busy regionals Friday. It's been a long day of watching all of these regional championships, or watching as many as we can. They're all like racing at the same time, so you're like balancing like 8 live results tabs, and then crunching the numbers to get our projections. So hopefully we're right. I mean, I think my prediction is like we're 99.9% right on our projections. But of course, you have to watch the NCAA selection show tomorrow to make sure we are 100% right.
Right, and I think this is where we talk about it. This is where we separate the boys from the men, the women from the girls, and we're going to talk about everything Kolas rankings. It's one of the most nerve-wracking parts of the NCAA cross-country season because it really does determine who goes to nationals. So let's just talk about it real quick. In case you are unfamiliar or new to the Kolas system, here is the deal. The Kolas rankings, often called the Kolas calculator, determines which teams qualify for the NCAA cross-country nationals outside of the automatic regional spots. So think of it like this. The top 2 teams from each region automatically qualify, and then the Kolas formula decides the remaining at-large bids based on head-to-head wins and how teams perform across regions. So every matchup, every placement matters. You can finish 3rd in your region, but if you've beaten the right teams earlier in the season, that can punch your ticket to nationals. John, you want to add anything to it, or did I get it down?
I think you got it. I mean, there are so many scenarios where it literally can come down to not even just who you beat, but your common opponents, right? So did you beat opponents that your opponent didn't beat, right? And so it gets really, really finicky. I mean, you even have to take into account B teams, right? So if a team races a B team, well, technically you can't score against them, but they can still score against you. So yeah, there's a lot of math, a lot of numbers, but like I said, I think we got it right, and I think we have some really fun projections to talk about.
Yeah, so I think we should just get right into it. Yeah?
Heck yeah.
All right, let's do it. Let's start off with the men's. All right, we have auto bids for men's. Notre Dame, Butler, Princeton, Georgetown, Oklahoma State, Iowa State, New Mexico, BYU, Syracuse, Iona. Let's go on to the next part. Alabama, Ole Miss, Tulane, Arkansas, Eastern Kentucky, Oregon, CBU, Wake Forest. All right, so tell me, John, these are the automatic men's teams that are in. Any surprises? Anyone that you feel like we are missing? What are our thoughts?
Yeah, I think the biggest surprise of the day has to be Eastern Kentucky. I think, we had them going into the regional, like maybe ranked 5th in the region, maybe 4th, to go out and beat Virginia for that second automatic transfer spot was really unexpected, but really cool to see also. And I mean, they were only 13 points back from Wake Forest for the team title. So that was a really, really good race. And when you consider, I think like we would argue that Justin Kipkoech should be their top guy. And he was like their number 3 guy on the day. That was surprising for sure. Rocky Hansen, I know this is a team show. I just got to shout out Rocky Hansen again because he just continues to roll. I mean, 29-10 to win his region. He's going to be a threat at nationals.
He was our Mud and Mouth spotlight at our last cross country ranking show. So I think we really got him right. Our stuff is aging well, John.
I love to see it. And one more thing I just want to shout out or call out real quick was CBU finishing 2nd in the West region. Not as much of a surprise, but they were really close with Washington State. They only beat them by 3 points. So that's a hard team to beat in Washington State because they have 2 automatic low sticks in Solomon Kipchoge and Evans Karoui. So anytime you could beat a team that is, I don't want to say but they have a good chance of putting up just 3 points between their first 2 runners. That was really impressive. Leo Young there has been kind of the breakout star. I think, if you look at his high school resume, going to Stanford, we knew he was going to be talented, but I think he's been overshadowed a little bit. And then this season, he's just found a little bit of movement.
You know, something that Brian Dybel, our other cross-country analyst, has been preaching from the mountaintops from episode 1 of the cross-country ranking show presented by HOKA is that when a team has a good day on a good day, a lot of things can change within our rankings and clearly also within the Kolas projections. So with all that being said, I think let's look at large, first 7 in for the men. We have Virginia, NAU, Colorado, Washington State, Wisconsin, Michigan State, and the Georgia Bulldogs. What are we looking at in the first 7 in, John?
Yeah, I mean, this is what people want to. This is what people are tuning in for. They want to see these at-large bids. No surprise there to see Virginia, even though they finished 3rd in the Southeast region. And I have them projected for 13 wins against ranked opponents. So essentially, opponents who finished, earned an automatic spot today. And then we have NAU there with also 13 wins versus ranked opponents. So that tie break goes to Virginia there, but Colorado right behind NAU there. We have a little bit of a mountain run. Colorado with 19 ranked wins. And so they essentially, I don't want to say they push NAU because they don't, but they're right on the heels of Virginia and NAU after finishing 4th in the mountain region. Washington State, 9 points, Wisconsin 6. Wisconsin technically gets a little bit of a push here from Michigan State, who had 12 ranked wins. I didn't know they had that many ranked wins, or I didn't know they would have that many ranked wins. I guess you wouldn't know until after the regions are run. But that was really surprising to see. And then Georgia, a team I've been really high on this year. I'm like really excited to see what they can do at nationals because I think they're just kind of a gritty team. But they actually win a bit of a tiebreaker, but we'll see that when we get to the next slide.
I wanted to touch on the Bulldogs real quickly for you. We spoke about them before in weeks past, and we put them a bit on upset watch. They are doing really well. You did mention that they were a really gritty team, but after regionals this morning, actually, what do you think they can do at nationals?
Yeah, I was actually a little bit disappointed to see them get beat by Ole Miss, just because I thought they would, be that second team to beat. I think we knew Alabama was going to be strong. But I thought Georgia was going to be a pretty astute second team, but Ole Miss had a great day and finished second in that region. Beat Georgia by 2 points. I think, as I mentioned, when we get to nationals, if Georgia can have a good day, they can turn a lot of heads. But again, I was a little bit disappointed with that. I don't think they had a bad day. I think just Ole Miss had a really good day. And so that kind of makes all the difference there. For a little bit, when you're going through these projections, and I mentioned B teams in our intro, but Ole Miss has slid under the radar a little bit, and that's because they ran a B team at Gaines Creek earlier this year, and that shifts a lot of the points a little bit. When you take them out of those results, a lot of things move, and so Georgia actually moved up quite a bit once I realized that this was a B squad at Gaines.
Okay, a good day to have a good day is going to be the theme between now and next week. With that being said, let's look at the next 7 in on the men's side. Let's see what we got going in. We have Michigan, Harvard, Virginia Tech, North Carolina, Air Force, Louisville, and Oklahoma. Before I ask your thoughts, John, I want to know, is there anyone that you're surprised not to see on this list and essentially season is over?
Yeah, I mean, before we jump into the teams that made it, you got to say Stanford had a disappointing day, 6th in the West region. Even though Leo Young had a great performance, as we mentioned, they just were not able to get it done on the day. And I mean, today is the only day that matters when we're talking about nationals, right? So that was a disappointing performance from them. They kind of get blocked out by Portland, who didn't have any wins against ranked opponents. The fact that Portland beat them is just kind of more of a, don't get me wrong, Portland had a great day, but I think it was more of a sign that Stanford had a bad day, right? And so I think another team I'm just disappointed to not see on this board is Missouri. I think, we were kind of rooting for them going to Mizzou later this week now at this point, right? And so I think we were, hoping that they would make it as a team to make that hometown storyline just that much better.
I know, that one was a bit of a gut wrencher. I was really looking forward to see how Mizzou can really defend home court advantage, but You know, it's all good. It's a part of the storyline. It's a part of why we love cross country and everything a part of it. So we spoke about the men. Let's go on to the ladies. Here we have our auto bids for the women first half. We have Notre Dame, Wisconsin, West Virginia, Georgetown, Oklahoma State, Northwestern, New Mexico, BYU, Boston College, Providence. Let's go on to the next half. Florida, Tennessee, Texas A&M, LSU, South Carolina, Stanford, Oregon, and NC State. Any surprises here, John? Because I have a feeling you're going to say no.
You know, less surprises on the women's side for sure. I was a little bit surprised to see New Mexico take the team title over BYU. Not really something I had on the bingo card going into the day, but they did, obviously. So that's something we're going to want to watch as we get ready for nationals. Again, I haven't really broken down all of the runners from each team in every single region, so I don't know what the true story is there. But I mean, you look at the results. Jane Hendegren took the win. Pamela Kosgei was second. Riley Chamberlain was third for BYU. So you had quite a few BYU and New Mexico runners in the top, really 20, almost both of their entire teams, and so it was just a close race, right? Like, I think that's just the story of the beast there. So that was probably my only surprise. I mean, of course, they both auto, so it's hard to call that a surprise. But I think you also look at teams like Boston College and Providence, you know, coming from a little bit weaker region in the Northeast. Boston College, they're a decent team for sure. I think they could, again, turn some heads when we get to nationals. Providence was a little bit lower on our chart, but they got the job done today. Another team I want to shout out is Northwestern. They had a really strong a day in the Midwest, beat Iowa State women for that second transfer spot.
John, let me ask you a question about the whole New Mexico BYU thing. I want to revisit that real quick. Do you think that this potentially can be a precursor to what we'll see next week at nationals, or was this a situation of just survive in advance for BYU?
Yeah, I think it definitely is just survive in advance, you know, but at the same time, you want to set the tone, right? Like, you want to, and I think BYU did that a little bit last year. I think back to the men's side. I'm less so referring to the women's side, but I'm referring back to the men's side last year when BYU went out and performed really well at Big 12s. Then they performed really well at their region championship. And then the men just went out and won the whole national title. And going in, we didn't have them as our top team. So I think you just want to establish some momentum. Again, it was really close between New Mexico and BYU. I don't think BYU should hold their heads at all. But at the same time, you know, if you're a team like Oregon or NC State, you know, you're kind of licking your chops a little bit, like, hey, like, we can get the job done when the time comes. Well, not sure if y'all can hear me or not, but I'm just going to keep going if we're going to continue with the show here. Sorry for the technical issues. It sounds like we lost a little bit of audio in the studio, but you know, as I mentioned, I think it was a disappointing day, or not a disappointing day, but BYU could have had a slightly better day. As we kind of look towards our auto bids here, there are a few kind of just no-brainers here. Iowa State jumps into our top spot in the auto bid. So Iowa State scores 10 points against ranked opponents. They're going to be our top team that makes the at-large selection. Penn State also with a ton of points. They scored 8 at-large. Villanova was 6 there. So our top 3 are pretty cut and dry as our auto bids go. Missouri is going to be our next team across the line. And so Missouri, Alabama, and Northern Arizona, they are actually technically in a tie here. And so when we look at the board, they each had 5 ranked wins. Alabama actually gets a huge boost here, despite finishing 3rd in the South region. You know, they had ranked wins against South Carolina at the SEC championships, LSU at the SEC championships, Missouri, Texas A&M, and Tennessee all at SECs. So as it turns out, SECs was huge to the team conversation here for Alabama, especially, and that shoots them up the board to 5 wins, up to 23rd in our projections. NAU, as I mentioned, also gets 5 points. They're right behind Missouri and Alabama in the tiebreak. They had ranked wins against Providence, Iowa State, Missouri, Tennessee, and Alabama. Most of those actually came at Gaines Creek. So really strong showing from NAU there. And right after NAU, we go on a little bit of a mountain region run here. So you go from NAU to Colorado straight to Utah. It was actually Utah out of those 3 teams who scored the most ranked wins against opponents. They had 7 ranked wins. And so really, they don't necessarily push because all 3 of those teams we mentioned would automatically get in when you compare them against teams a little bit lower on the board. But again, just shows you how strong that mountain region really is. Continue down the board just a tad. We'll go to North Carolina, who is our 3rd team in the Southeast. Right behind them will be Virginia. And, you know, this is where things get really interesting when we look at our next 7. Boise State is going to be our 29th team across the board with 0 points against ranked opponents. Boise State is the surprise of the day. They finished 3rd in the West region, and they get pushed in by Washington State, who had those 4 ranked wins. Otherwise, Boise State would not have had a shot at this at-large bid, but they get bumped in by Washington State. And then we have in 31st, Washington with 4 points, and Wake Forest with 4 points. Wake Forest finishing 5th in the Southeast. Duke is going to be our first team out. They scored 6 points and finished 6th in the Southeast. Really, the key here for Duke was just the fact that, number one, they get blocked by Wake Forest, and they can't bump them past Washington due to the factor that North Carolina technically gets bumped in by Virginia. So you can't have a double bump out of the same region. And so we see that happen there where the Southeast already receives a bump earlier in the ranking set. And so, as I mentioned, Duke can't bump in Wake Forest. A really disappointing outcome for them, because they were a team that, you know, we were really excited to see what they can do. They've had a great season to this point, but unfortunately, they just can't get past Wake Forest for the win. I actually kind of want to go back to the men's ranking set here in just a moment, but because we also had a similar situation with ties on the men's side. But another team that just kind of misses the fringe on the women's side was Michigan State. Again, they just get blocked, right? And so they actually finished 5th in their region, the Great Lakes region, or sorry, 4th in the Great Lakes region behind Toledo. And Toledo just puts a little bit of a block on them. Otherwise, Michigan State probably would have made it in on their own merit had they finished 3rd in the region. And by probably, I mean they would have finished inside our at-large bids. So I actually want to switch back to the men's side and talk a little bit about our final at-large teams, because when we look at the board, things get a little bit interesting here, right? So we have Air Force, Louisville, and Oklahoma. Those are our top 3 or last 3 teams in. What's interesting about this is I don't think many of us expected Air Force and Louisville to just magically, I don't want to say magically, that's not the right word, but I don't think we expected them to get in at all coming into today, but they both had really strong performances at their respective region championships. Air Force with a 5th place in that really strong mountain region, Louisville with a 6th place in that stacked Southeast region. And so Louisville, Oklahoma, and Utah State is actually our first team out on the men's side. So Louisville, Oklahoma, and Utah State were all tied with 2 points apiece against ranked opponents. Louisville gets the tiebreaker over Oklahoma, and Oklahoma has the tiebreaker over Utah State due to head-to-head, or actually not head-to-head matchup. That's actually due to common opponents there. Lipscomb is going to get blocked by Tennessee, and because there's not enough spots available, they can't bump Tennessee in. Otherwise, Lipscomb, had they finished ahead of Tennessee, would have jumped into our rankings. And so that's really the tail of the tape there. Not much more we could talk about on the team side. I mean, I could ramble up here all day about the individual side. I mean, there are plenty of battles that we need to talk about, but we will talk all of that next week. We have our ranking show as scheduled on Tuesday, and then we will be live in Mizzou for XC Race Day, presented by HOKA. We will be live from the kitchen in Missouri, Columbia, Missouri. So make sure you join us. If you're wondering what the times are, just check out our social media channels. Those should be pinned at the top of our feeds. We'll be doing a couple of giveaways as well. So I think it's first 100 people in the door. We'll get some HOKA / FloTrack gear. So make sure you join us to get that. And then obviously race day is on Saturday. Make sure you have your stashes looking good. Make sure the goatees are gone because it's stash season now. So we will give out a Stash of the Year award as well. So thank you so much for joining me, and we'll see you next week.
I mean, John said it best. Technical difficulties are definitely a part of the gig, so thanks for sticking around. John, thanks for holding it down. But everything John said, I definitely want to echo. We will be live on the ground in Missouri next week, and make sure you come see us, come to the kitchen. We will be having a live preview show, and then on the morning of, a live prediction show. And I can't wait to see you guys there. Flo can't wait to see all you guys there. Catch you next week.